What's up, everyone, and welcome into the Buffalo Sports Collective. It is Monday, January 6, 2024. As always, I am PK alongside my co-host Phil for episode 323. I want to take a moment to apologize for not having a show on Friday. This was all my fault. I was sending my parents off to Florida for 3 months on Monday. Monday night, got home. Throat was feeling a little scratchy. I was like, okay. Took a Tylenol, went to bed, slept maybe 2 hours, went to work, worked 3, couldn't last any longer, came home, went in bed, and hadn't left the bed, until Saturday morning. The flu got me good. It was the sickest I've ever felt. I had COVID twice. Wasn't bad, but in my 32 and a half years of life, this was the worst I've ever felt in my entire life. I didn't check my phone very often, maybe once or two times a day, or once or twice a day. And even in that time, it was maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, and then I put it down and then went right back to bed. I think I slept more in the last 4 days, those 4 days, than I had combined naps my entire life. It was not fun. I don't wish it upon anybody. But yeah, my bad. Didn't have power rankings. Literally couldn't keep my eyes open because it was just everything hurt. Couldn't stop coughing. My throat was killing me. My eyes hurt. Like every part of me hurt from Monday night until. I'm still not bad. I'm still not good. You can hear it in my voice. I'm still coughing. There's probably going to be coughing spells in this show. But, yeah, my bad. My bad, guys. Thank you for producer Pat and Phil for holding down the company. And I will try not to get sick again. It sucks. I normally never get sick, and I got sick early in December, which wasn't terrible. We didn't miss any shows, but I was, like, coughing and stuff. And then this one just put me down. Like, there's something going around right now that is just... It's keeping people down and out for days, and that was not fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of people at my work as well that have been getting really sick and being out for a while. And yeah, something's definitely going around that is more intense than the usual cold or sickness. A lot of people are getting something and staying out for, like, even really good workers who normally don't call in sick or will call in sick one day but then go right back to work, have been out 2-3 days in a row and just feeling terrible. So yeah, something's definitely going around, but glad to have you back. Glad to have the show back. You're sounding a little rough, like you said, but you're up and moving, which is better than you were a couple days ago. So a rough start to 2025 for you. I don't want to say it can only get better because it's not necessarily true, but it should get better from here.
Yeah, fingers crossed. This is my last sickness for a while. It hasn't been fun. Brooke escaped it until Friday. She started feeling bad, and then she usually doesn't get it as bad as I ever do in anything. One, because I'm a wuss, but two, she got it Friday, and Saturday she was kind of down and out for the count, and I was like, yeah, imagine if you were me who's a baby with this thing. Now you're kind of understanding. She goes, yeah, I'm actually understanding how bad it was for you. But yeah, we'll dive into the show here. Thank you for all the well wishes, the people that did reach out. I am up and at 'em. I didn't lose any weight, though. It wasn't one of those kind of sicknesses, sadly. But yeah, we will trudge forward and move on and put on a brave face for this episode. Remember, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Don't forget to follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts. Check out our website at buffalosportscollective.com. You can also check out our store on our link tree on our social media sites, or at the top of the website by hitting the shop tab. You can represent the BSC on the go and look for the time breakdowns in the description of the show. If our last Friday show being missed was a nice trendsetter, we're also not having a show on this coming Friday, but for a different reason. The Buffalo Bandits are hosting the Toronto Rock on a Friday, a very rare home Friday game, which means this year every Friday episode that has a Friday Bandits game is being pushed to Thursday, so you get extra time to listen to it. So Normal Friday show coming up. Check for it on Thursday. Normal power rankings that come out on Thursday. Check for those on Friday. Phil, the Bills had a football game. I did not watch until the final drive where Mike White went 0 for 4 and gave the New England Patriots the fourth overall pick instead of the first, which caused Jared Mayo to get fired. Whole implosion of the New England Patriots served on a cold dish that just made me smile. But the Bills were locked into the number 2 seed regardless of the outcome. Nothing could have changed as long as, with health. And it sounds like they made it out of the game healthy. Josh Allen's start streak is still alive because he went in there, handed it off, and then ran to the sidelines. They're facing the Denver Broncos. We don't, as of this recording at 7:30 on Sunday night, we do not know when, but we do know it will be the Denver Broncos after they completely steamrolled the second stringers from Kansas City. If you feel that Kansas City should have started their starters and Cincy should have got a legit chance. Maybe you shouldn't suck in September, Cincinnati. Like, you lost against the Patriots week 1. I think you were 1-5 at one point. Start the season better if you actually want the end of the season to mean something for you. I know you went on this hot streak, but guess what? September games matter too. But yeah, they're going to be facing Denver Broncos. It's kind of the wish that we've been wanting. You had a chance to face Miami, you had a chance to face Cincinnati, and it was Denver, the final game, or the final, it came down to the final week here. One of those 3 opponents were coming to Western New York. It's Denver. We don't even have to talk about the game because nothing really happened in that game that matters whatsoever, except New England going from 1 to 4. Phil, how are you feeling that it is Denver and it is not Cincinnati or Miami?
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati honestly would have scared me. So I am happy that Denver took care of business. I think Cincinnati would have been much scarier than the Broncos. I know their defense is horrible, but their offense is pretty scary, and the Bills' defense right now is questionable, I think. So I think giving Burrow and Chase and Higgins a chance, and even Chase Brown came on strong at the end of the year, so their offense would have been tough for the Bills to deal with. I know their defense, the Bills probably could have kept up with. It would have been another one of those Detroit really high-scoring games. But I think Denver, yes, they're a good team for sure. They made playoffs for a reason. Their defense is pretty good. Their rookie QB is coming on strong, but they don't have a run game. Their wide receivers are meh. I know Sutton's pretty good, but he's not, Chase. So they should be able to be handled for the most part. I know their defense is really good, but I would rather the Bills' offense that's been elite all season and has Josh Allen go up against a tough defense than I would the Bills' defense that has been okay all season but struggles at time go up against a really good offense. So I think between the Bengals especially and the Broncos, I think this is the better outcome for the Bills.
I agree. I wanted no part of Cincinnati. I know a lot of people were like, hey, get that revenge factor. You haven't beaten them in the playoffs to get that revenge factor. I'm one of those people that I don't care how you end up winning the Super Bowl if that's the end result, because they don't ask how you got to the Super Bowl and won it. They ask, oh, you won it. That's the only thing that's going to be remembered. I mean, how many Kansas City fans, and I don't know many, if any, remember their back-to-back runs? Like, who did they have to go through? What were the scores of the games in the playoffs to win back-to-back Super Bowls? They're not going to really remember it. If they do, maybe it's 1 or 2 games that there was an important.
It's mainly the ones against the Bills that were known as like some of the best games of all time, but that's the only reason. I mean,
exactly.
Who else did they beat? I don't know.
Yeah, down the road, 5-10 years from now, you're not really going to remember. Okay, they had to beat Cincinnati and Baltimore and then Kansas City to make it to the Super Bowl. They're just going to be remembered as the Super Bowl champion. So I didn't care. I don't care about that narrative. I want the easiest path for the Buffalo Bills to make the Super Bowl. And to me, that is having a rookie Bo Nix, who did look unbelievable in this one. I did actually watch that game because it actually meant something. At least the first half I did. He looked really good. Yes, Kansas City's second stringers, going against Denver's first stringers. It's Denver's defense that is actually a bit scary for me. And the second part is, yes, Bo Nix is a rookie, Sean McDermott's been known to be really good against rookie quarterbacks, but he is a rushing quarterback. He might not be known for a rushing quarterback, but I think I heard on the broadcast he has picked up more first downs on scrambles than any other quarterback besides Jaden Daniels this year. So if you can't get to him and you can't contain him in the pocket, he can be a threat with his legs. And thinking back years and years and years ago when they first made the playoffs, how did Jacksonville defeat the Buffalo Bills? It's by the running of Blake Bortles. And I understand the defense, the team, everything is completely different than it was back then. But you have a Jacksonville Jaguars team back there that should have had no business beating the Buffalo Bills. Even Buffalo, sneaking into the playoffs that season. I believe that was the season they snuck into the playoffs and broke the drought. But Buffalo had a better chance of beating Jacksonville in that game because Jacksonville, to me, wasn't a legit threat with Blake Bortles as quarterback. The only reason that you actually lost that game is because Blake Bortles' rushing ability. That paired with their defensive line and Patrick Surtain, he's unbelievable back there. Sean Payton, I don't think he's that best of a coach, but he's a very, very highly educated, highly technical head coach, and that scares me. I'm not saying out of the three teams, I would have preferred Miami just because Miami has absolutely no hope of beating Buffalo, even if it is the third time Buffalo would have to beat Miami. They've done it in the past. I'm not afraid of them. Coming into sub 40 temperatures, they can't really win. They've won maybe one or two games. But out of Denver and Cincinnati, I wanted it to be Denver, hands down. I mean, Cincy's offense is just terrifying. I know their defense absolutely stinks, but I was hoping for Denver all along. We've been hoping for Denver for the past 5 to 7 weeks of this, and we finally get our wish, and we get that next weekend. And I'm excited for it. I'm a little nervous for it, but I think if you're not nervous for a round one matchup, you got a screw loose to me. But I'm excited for it. I don't know if you have anything else to add for the Week 18 other than, New England. I know you already have your quarterback in Drake May, but having the first overall pick and being able to hold it for ransom and just trade back, gone. Absolutely gone because you stink as a franchise now.
Yeah, I guess that's the only thing, which is good for the Bills that the Patriots in their division moved down.
And Jets are winning now too,
draft.
and they're going to be dropping back in the draft order.
I don't know. There's no upside to winning that game. And now I understand if the coaching staff thinks they're going to get fired, why not win and move on? And that way, I
think that's what happened. I think Mayo knew he's out his way out.
Yeah, and then at that point, you're just like, you know what? Go win. But if you're Drake May, and I know you can't necessarily throw it, but like that's your future team you're hoping to get more players and talent for. I don't know what you do, but I don't know. Just try to throw the game a little bit. It's weird. Even the Jets winning, like what are you winning for? Like what is the point at this point to winning? I still think that system needs to be changed. I don't think it ever will be, but I don't know. I mean, it's good for the Bills all around that the AFC East teams that needed to lose or wanted to lose are winning and dropping further in the draft. So, yay, Bills. Nothing about Week 18, but hopefully our wish of Denver that we've been wishing for a long time, like you said, does and come back to bite us. Should be nervous. It's a playoff game. It's one and done. Anything can happen at any time in playoffs. So, if you're not nervous, you're crazy, but should be a good one. Should be a good game, and I do think they should win in theory, but you never know. So hopefully they win, and we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, fingers crossed, not a Monday night or a Sunday night opening round because that will affect our schedule, and I'd rather that not happen. Play Saturday. Please play Saturday. That would be much more beneficial.
Primetime Saturday is okay.
Sunday, 1 o'clock would be the perfect time slot because there's a lot of NLL games that we're going to be talking about on Friday. But, yeah.
It's crazy that they don't know at this point, and, like, fans need to know for their lives next week. I mean, some people, I would assume, work on weekends and try to figure out the plans, and whoever has tickets has no idea when they're going to a game, which is just wild to me. And I know it's always like this, so I would assume if you got tickets, you should be blocking off, that whole entire time period, but that's got to be a little bit frustrating to have to wait that long to figure out when you're going to a Bills game.
Yeah, I've got Twitter open, so as soon as I find it, I will talk about it, but everybody else will have already known what the game is and what time it is by the time you're listening to this. So on our next show, we'll talk a little bit more about Denver versus Buffalo and maybe dive a little bit further into that matchup because why not? It's playoff time. It's win or go home. Sabres. Phil, they're back in a losing streak. They're 3-12-4 in their last 19 games. Tuesday, we should have talked about this one on our Friday show, but again, sick, back now. Lost 4-2 versus the Stars. Zucker and Malenstein were the only goal scorers. UPL 29-32 saves, shots 33-23 in favor of Dallas. They were 0 for 0 on the power play. Friday, lost 6-5 in overtime versus Colorado. Zucker had 3. This is going to be a common theme here. Byram had 1. Benson had 1. UPL 23 of 29 saves, shots 29-21 in favor of Colorado. 2 for 3 on the power play, but they blew a 3-0 lead and a 5-3 lead. The 5-3 lead came with 3:51 left in the game. Don't know what's up with Colorado, but they like blowing the leads versus Colorado. Saturday, they lost 3-1 versus Vegas. Zucker was the only goal scorer, scored in all 5 goals in the last 3 games. Absolutely ridiculous. Can't wait to see what they get for him at the trade deadline. Reimer, 30 of 33 saves. Shots were 33-24 in favor of Vegas and 1 for 3 on the power play. Phil, before this long stretch started of these 19 games, they were 11-9-1. Do you remember that time? Do you remember?
I don't know. We have a long time before we really discuss this, but something you just brought up was what I was going to briefly bring up, and mainly because the player is doing great. Players that are mainly this one. We'll just talk about Zucker super quick. He's having a really, really fantastic season. He is unrestricted free agent next year. Is he a player in your mind that you would rather ditch for picks rather than lock in for a few? I know he's tougher because he's already 33, so it's hard to say you want him for 2 years. I'm trying to make a fun argument here, but I don't know. Personally, I'd say ditch him for a lot of really good picks because even if you lock him in for 2 years, do I see this team doing anything in the next 2 years? I don't know. Probably not. So kind of useless, but trying to use him as an example of if a player's having a good season, are you of the mindset that even if they're an unrestricted free agent or restricted free agent, do you want to trade players away for picks, or are you trying to retain them because they finally had a good season with the Sabres? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
Zucker's one of those few ones that in past years I would have said, hey, ship him off for whatever you can. I mean, he serves no purpose here. He's actually the best, maybe not one of, if not the best free agent acquisition that the Sabres have had in a decade. I mean, I would try to do whatever you can to sign him to a 2-year deal and not ship him elsewhere. Unless he is adamant, like, hey, I'm not going to re-sign here. Like, you gave me $5 million to write my career.
Thank you.
You know, I re-showed that I can do stuff here in this league, even on a bad team. There's going to be a better market for me out there. I would appreciate you sending me somewhere to go play playoff hockey. I will give my well wishes to the organization. I will sing their praises that you did it, but I would like out. Unless he's saying that, I would like to try to lock him up to a 2-year deal. I'm not saying, 3, 4, 5-year deal for a 33-year-old forward, but what other players on this team are actually playing to and beyond expectations? It's not very many, and Zucker's one of the very few that I would want to keep around this organization, not just because that he was identified as a player brought in and is actually exceeding expectations, but he's scoring. Like, there's not that many players on this team that are doing what he's doing, and you lack the depth scoring on this team. All offseason, what do we hear? They got to get tougher to play against. We want more hitters. We want more toughness. And I was one of the ones that saying, hey, you got to fix the bottom 6. They did that, and guess what? They still stink. But we were also still saying, hey, they need to go out and address the top 6. And they didn't do it, and they weren't able to do it. Zucker came in, and I thought he was a perfect bottom 6 forward depth scoring winger. It's exactly that. But guess what? You still didn't fix the top 6 wing position to address the scoring there. And then Cousins, man, he just flat out stinks. Like, if you can send him off to a bag of pucks right now, do it. Get out of that contract. Like, all these pieces that we were saying last year, relying on these players to do what they did the previous year or better. You did the same thing this year. It was like, okay, last year was a down year. We're expecting them to bounce back. Tage has done that to an extent, but like Cousins never came rebounded. He's never been what he was 2 years ago. If I'm the organization and I get no indication from Zucker that he will not re-sign here, I am holding him through the end of the season, hoping I can get a 2 to 3 year deal locked in. Because guess what? They still have $8 million. You still got that sitting there. It's not like Jack Quinn's earning a long-term contract. It's not like J.J. Peterka's earning a long-term contract. Yes, you might lock them in for 7, 8 years, which I wouldn't do at this point, but they're not going to be making $7, $8, $9 million. They're maybe $3 to $4 million at this point, if that. That's not going to eat up a lot of money that's on the books right now. So if I'm Sabres, I'm looking at Zucker and going, hey, how do you feel about a 2 to 3 year deal sticking here in Buffalo? And if he says, hey, I'm not really going to do it, then you ship him off. But otherwise, I'm trying to keep him around Buffalo for a couple more years.
All right. It was more interesting than I thought. That's kind of what I was leaning and getting at. Like, instead of trying to get picks, because I would assume at the deadline he would be a huge acquisition for anybody. So he's your gold mine right now if you wanted picks, was kind of, so that's kind of the trade-off I was trying to get at. Like, do you keep the player who's being productive on your team, or do you once again not think this team's close enough and want to go youth for the 100th time? But nice to hear that you want to keep him. I do agree, but hopefully they can get it sorted out that, you know, what he's feeling before the trade deadline, because like you said, if you lose him in the offseason for nothing, that's going to feel horrible.
Yeah, the only other thing I wanted to mention about the NFL schedule, I was bragging about it yesterday to you on Saturday, and I forgot to mention it during the Buffalo Bills segment. Did I pick the Patriots or the Pittsburgh Steelers to go 0-4? I did, and they went 0-4. Right? I don't care about what my predictions were for the other ones. Still haven't gone back and looked. Probably should, but maybe I nailed them all. Yeah, they went 0-4.
I think it was right before right before this 0-4. The Steelers won like a big game, and one of our buddies is a big Steelers fan. He went on. It was when the Bills, I think, and Steelers had like the similar or same record, and they were like right behind him, and he was like, "Oh, Steelers are going to catch them. Not a big deal. Like, look out, Bills fans and everything." And here they are, 0-4, and they collapsed pretty hard, just like you predicted.
Yeah, there's a reason why I have the bet with my brother that Mike Tomlin will never win another Super Bowl, and you saw a prime example of that in Saturday's game. Just embarrassing. But Phil, before we dive into the NLL, our top 10 of our BSC game, and our New Year's resolutions. I said that weird. Resolutions. Let's get into our first sponsor of the show, Tap That Tap Room.
Tap That Tap Room is at 363 Delaware Street in Tonawanda, New York. They are Buffalo's first women-owned self-pour bar featuring 30 consistent and rotating taps, including a wide variety of beers, ciders, sours, seltzers, and malt beverages.
Phil, Fridays, like everybody should know by now, they got a discount going on in their entire beer wall from 3 to 7, so you can check all those 30 rotating taps, figure out what's your favorite and what you might be most interested in. They have something for everyone. But every Thursday now, they have 50-cent boneless wings. They got 10 different sauces and dry rubs you can try. So why not show up on Thursday? Try the wings. Delicious as always. 10 different flavors. You can try all 10 different flavors and dry rubs and sauces and all the other galores. And then show back up Friday, especially this Friday. You could show up 3 to 7, do the happy hour, and go in a little bit happy. Be ready for the Bandits versus Toronto Rock. If you do not have a ticket to that game, they have the watch party there. We will advertise that a little bit more on our Thursday show. They host the watch parties for every single Buffalo Bandits games, including ticket giveaways. But, you know, Fridays, happy hour, head there first, right after work, get a spot, because it is always jam-packed full of Bandits fans. TVs on every screen. Get there a little early, save yourself a seat, try out your new beer, and cider, sours, seltzers, whatever you're thinking, for a little bit of a discounted rate. And then you could stick there for the Bandits game, and you already found your new favorite there. So for any other posted event, check out their Facebook page. And to find out what's on tap and what's on deck before you head there, go to tapthattaproom.com. Phil, I'm working on pulling up our website right now. I don't know why it's taking me so long to do it, but I'm going to give you the rundown on the top 10. Man, I don't get it. Let me just go to Squarespace because this is a.
Do you want me to run down the top 10?
You have it in front of you?
I do have it in front of me.
Go for it. This is the
All
top
right.
10 for week 3. I updated it on Saturday, this past Saturday, because, I was down and out for the count for a while. But yeah, I got it updated on Saturday. So here is Phil to take away the top 10 for week 3 of our BSC Bandits fantasy game.
At number 10, we got Jill M. not moving with 224 points. At number 9, we got Mike D. at 226 points. He dropped 5 spots. Stacy K. moved up 1 to number 8 at 231 points. Tim K. dropped 2 to 7 for 238 points. Brooke K. PK at 6 with 239, moved up 2. PK moved up 2 to number 5, getting in that top 5 with 240. Tied with 240 is Nick B at number 4. He also moved up 2. Top 3 didn't do anything. Brad D sitting at 248 in third. Phil right here sitting at 2 with 262. And Jackson B crushing it with 271 in first place right now.
Yeah, there's been a lot of movement. As we continue on through the season, we're learning more and more, and my wife even goes, when we were working on the house yesterday, she goes, "Are you regretting making the call-ups and plays for the practice squad players so many points?" I was like, I'm not really regretting it, but I'm making notes for things for next year. Who would have expected Scanlon to get called up and play in 2 games out of the 3 so far? But we'll probably tinker that down just a tiny bit next year. But yeah, if you have Scanlon on your practice squad, you're probably in the top 10. If you don't,
I'm going to call out 2 more fun ones, a couple big movers, and then we're going to call out where producer Pat is for funsies.
Oh yeah.
Number 17, Garrett E. He went up 11 spots, one of our biggest
yeah,
movers.
Scanlon.
And number 15, Dan S. went up 12 spots, 205. Producer Pat dropped out of the top 20 with 200. He dropped down 5. Come on, Producer Pat, you're better than this.
And guess why? He doesn't have Scanlon on his team. So that's kind of
helpful.
what we said about this game is we're going to, this first year, you're still going to be able to win some stuff if you win the whole thing. But it's a lot more about a learning experience on how to adjust the game as we move forward. We're looking for ways to improve it for next year, things to chop out, things to add, scoring changes, like we mentioned with the practice squad. Might have to tinker that down just a tad with Scanlon just going absolutely bananas. I'm pulling up his numbers right now just to give a reference on how well he is actually doing. I guess I can give a rundown on how a lot of the players are doing as the screens are just... I haven't really done a ton on this computer in a while, Phil, and that's kind of the reason why I'm falling behind a lot. Yeah, I'm looking at Scanlon right now. He's got 30 points, which gives him more points than Frazier, which gives him more points than Priolo, Whitty, Robinson, Spanger, Wire. So he right now is slotting into the tier 3 spot. You got Dane Smith coming in the lead with 94. You got Byrne at 78. Then followed up with Weiss, which... that's probably why you're ahead of me because you had Priolo switched at last minute to Weiss. Priolo's got 29. McKay's in 4th with 46 right now because he's pretty much a full-time forward. Kluch has got 30 in just 2 games. Frazier sitting at 25. Very quiet season. Nanako's got 39. Buchanan 37. And then, you're looking further down the list. Farrell coming in with a nice 27 because he's got 25 loose balls and 1 penalty minute, which definitely hurts him there. But yeah, Scanlon sitting at 30 on the practice squad is definitely helping. If you have him, you're probably in the top 5. Like you were saying, Dan S., he has Scanlon on his practice squad sitting there with
Jumped
30.
12
That's
spots.
a big reason for his jump. So yeah, it's definitely a learning experience, and we're making notes for next year on how to improve the game and move forward with it. But yeah, it's definitely been fun. There's still 15 games left, so if you're
Plenty
sitting
of
down there
time.
in like the 20s and 30s, you still have plenty of time to make that jump. Like we just said, there was one player who moved up 11 spots. There's another player who moved up 12 spots. Yes, you could take a big nosedive if you have a player that's hurt and doesn't play, like Kluch, you lost a few spots, but it's a long season. It's a physical game. A lot of players can get hurt and kind of slide down. But we'll move forward. 3 games in the NL took place. We didn't really get to talk about them at all. But, man, I went 0 for 3. Producer Pat went 0 for 3. And Phil over there went 1 for 2 and led the week. That's kind of how it was this week in the NL. Las Vegas took on Albany and won 12-11 in overtime. Third home game overtime loss for the Albany Firewolves, who dropped to 1-4. Albany led 7-4 early in the third. Williams tied at 11-11 with 2:38 left in the game, and Potras won it with 2:01 into overtime. You had Donville finally came alive in this one. Webster comes off the practice squad, goes 3-3-6. Kells 48 of 59 in net, and then Albany, man. They signed Callum Crawford. He gets 1 goal in this game. The offense just looks out of sorts for this team. Like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if it's because the league has them figured out at this point. I know they've lost 3 close games in overtime that could have gone their way, but you're sitting 1-4 right now. It's not looking good for your future right now. Las Vegas does take game 1 out of the 5 more left, I think it is, or 4 more left of the Tucker Out Lymphoma Cup. Las Vegas 1-0, Albany 0-1 in that. Rochester versus Georgia. Rochester gets off the schneid, off the losing streak of 4 in a row. They're sitting 2-4 now at their 16-9 victory over Georgia. They led 7-4 at halftime and then scored the 6th straight in the third quarter. You had Fields 2-6-8. Lanchbury led the way with 3-6-9. Hogue scored his first 2 of his NL career, and they had Susselberger at the faceoff dot, giving way for Jensen to be more fresh in the game. He scored 2, and then the game of the night, Ottawa versus San Diego. It was tied for the lowest scoring game in NL history, and it was the lowest score for a victor in NL history. I believe I saw somebody say that any team who scored 6 in a game had been 0-258, I think it was, or 225 or something like that. Now that's a 1 because San Diego won 6-5. Ottawa was 5-4 up to the positive at halftime. Berg scored 2 in 58 seconds to open the third quarter, and Ottawa went 37 minutes and 2 seconds without a goal. From the middle of the second until the end of the game, no player on Ottawa had more than 1 point, including Jeff Teed, who had 1 goal on 13 shots. Grennan, 1 goal on 8 shots. Dunbar only had 3 shots on 1 goal. Higgins was absolutely insane in this one, making unbelievable saves, was Spider-Manning his arms and Supermaning his arms like crazy, making saves 46 of 52. But San Diego just had a little bit extra juice. Benny, 2 assists. Berg, 2, 1, and 3. Hellier, 1, 2, and 3. But, yeah, this was a game, if you like goal scoring, not to watch. This was an electric defensive and goaltending matchup, and I absolutely loved every second of watching that until, like, midnight at 12:30, and I probably should have been in bed to try to get healthier.
Yeah, it's, like you said, if you like defense and whatnot, it's really good, but to me, it's a pretty gross score. It's a weird score. And I think the big thing is, like, the Stars, like you said, just had nothing. I mean, Teat with only 1 point is insane. Like, I would have to go back for a little bit there and see the last time he only had 1 point in a game. It's got to be a pretty long streak, I would assume, with only having multiple point games, because he pretty much always has more than 1 point. So we'll have to possibly go back and check that out at some point. But just a weird game. I mean, congrats to Grennan getting in the lineup, getting a goal. Good for him.
He was fun to watch again.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he was annoying on Albany, but he's annoying everywhere because that's the kind of player he is. PK's favorite. He's a pest, but he's really good at what he does. Weird game, and I don't know. I feel like I wanted San Diego to lose that one if I had to choose, but that's all right. Georgia and Rochester. I don't know, another really weird one. Like, this is another one of those games that tells me nothing because we've seen Rochester so far this season. The Bandits have already whooped on them twice. What is the real Rochester is the problem they have every single season. They have these games where Georgia was looking like one of the best teams, if not arguably the best team in the entire league to start the season. And all of a sudden Rochester goes out and puts, whooping on them and makes it look easy. Like, where did that possibly come from? Why all of a sudden are you beating one of the best teams in the league when the other arguably best team in the league smacked it twice? So like, what is Rochester? And same thing with Georgia. Their offense is just still continues to do what they do, which is very little. Lyle's very good, but their offense just does not seem to have the ability to score more than 9, 10, 11 goals. And if the other team puts up a game like this, they don't have the offense to keep up. So that's kind of Georgia's big weakness in my mind, is that if they have an off defensive night, they are in trouble. And then Albany, like you said, yes, you're losing 3 overtime games, so they should, in theory, be able to come back from this and hopefully start getting some wins for their own sake and start stringing them together. But you got to start winning these overtime games. I mean, whether you win or lose, you lost 3 of them. So, yes, it's only by 1 goal. So, in the grand scheme of things, your team looks okay, but your 1-4 record doesn't. I mean, that's going to hurt quite a bit when there's these unified standings and you're trying to fight your way up. That's not good. I mean, yes, again, for a morale standpoint and a long-term outlook on Albany throughout the whole season, they should be okay, and their offense is absolutely struggling for some reason. But 1-4 is a very early hole to dig out of. And so far to start the season, Rochester we had going near the finals. Albany we had going near the finals. Toronto we thought would take a step back, but not like this. Like the top teams other than San Diego and Georgia, they were supposed to be really good, and they are pretty much really good. A couple of the top heavy hitters going into this season are floundering brutally at the beginning of the season, and it's either going to lead to some other teams making some unexpected runs to make playoffs, or these teams are going to have to turn it around and go on some pretty monster runs to get themselves back in the top half of the standings.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's Panther City folding and the rest of the teams getting this much better, along with the draft classes that have come in the last few years. The difference between victory and loss is so narrow in this league. Like Las Vegas, who was 0-4, just went in and took down the former last year second overall team in Albany. It's insane how close all these teams are. It's they said it on one of the broadcasts, and I can't remember who said it. And instead of every given Sunday, it's every given weekend. You don't know what it's going to look like. I mean, last year I think we were pretty good at picking who was going to win and who was going to lose, and I think our NL picks showed that. We all were over 500 by quite a bit last year. This year we're hovering right around 500 through 7. Like, this is going to be week 7 coming up in the NLL, and we have no idea. Like, going through all the picks, I'm still struggling. Okay, yes, Buffalo's probably going to defeat Toronto. Yes, there's a few things in there that are like, okay, this is almost certain that you can put down there, but otherwise it's like you're fighting yourself trying to figure out, okay, what does this week look like? And we're on deck for all 14 teams playing in 7 games coming up this weekend for an absolutely star-studded event. I'm looking forward to it. I'm happy that the Bandits are playing on a Friday, because that means Saturday I can kind of just sit behind a TV and just watch the rest of the NLL games that are on deck, because it's filthy. With Ottawa versus Georgia, you got Toronto versus Buffalo, San Diego versus Vancouver. That's just the Friday night games, and those are all nicely spaced out if you want to as well. But then you got afternoon lacrosse at 1 o'clock, Calgary versus Philly. 7 o'clock, you got Halifax versus Rochester. You got Vegas versus Saskatchewan. And then 9 o'clock, you got Albany versus Colorado. Those are star-studded matchups and must-wins for some of those teams. Halifax versus Rochester. The loser of that, Halifax could fall to 1-4. Rochester could be 2-5. You got Vegas and Saskatchewan. If you're Saskatchewan, how do you lose to Vegas? But if you're Vegas, how do you fall to 1-4? Albany versus Colorado. Albany is in must-win territory at this point. You can't fall to 1-5, but you're going against a red-hot Colorado team. And then San Diego versus Vancouver. Who picks that one? Like, you would think San Diego, with their offense, should be able to perform very well, but Vancouver's got a star-studded defense, and San Diego's offense does not look good. So we could preview those games further on next week, but 7 games on tap with all 14 teams in action for the first time this year. I'm excited for next weekend for all the NLL talk, because a lot of things can change with all teams up on deck for what the NLL look like come Sunday morning.
And there's a few stars throughout the league who are still shining for the most part, but it's weird to see Dane, 3 games played, is still 6th in the league in points, and Byrne at 3 games played is still 11th in the league in points. Like, yes, Fields is up there, but he's got 6 games played compared to a lot of other teams. And Resetarits and Jones on the high-flying Philly are surprised to be up there. Lansbury's number 1 currently with 35 points, but again, 6 games played. Like, the usual stars, like Jeff Tate is just not up here, and just some of the other, like, there's the players who are normally, in the top 10 who are just shining and just demolishing everybody. I feel like it's been a lot of a struggle for a lot of the Mammoth players out there. I mean, Smith and Byrne are doing what they did last year, but a lot of other players that you expect to be at the top of this list and just crushing opponents every single night have been struggling to start the season. We've seen a lot of different names rise up on the stats board. It's just interesting to see some of these differences from last year, especially early on. Like, even like you just said, picking games, it's way too early, but you'd hope that by now you'd have a better picture of the NLL in general. And it's so muddy. I have no idea if anybody's good, if anybody's bad. Like, the games and teams are all over the place right now, and it's very hard to predict just who is legit at this point and who isn't. It's really tough to figure out what teams actually are right now.
Yeah, we were even having issues when we were picking our NL playoffs. We were saying, like, hey, besides like 1 or 2 teams,
right,
pretty much any of these players can make it, or any of these teams can make it. And even Calgary's sitting 2-1 right now, and you're like, what the heck happened there? But yeah, we will have plenty of time to continue talking about that. But let's dive into our final segment here, our New Year's resolutions. We were kind of going to split this into 2 different ones, but again, wasn't here Friday, my bad. So we're going to tie this all into one. So we each picked one resolution for the Bills, the Sabres, and the Bandits. If we were them, what would our New Year's resolution be? We have one for the BSC, and we have one personal one. Phil, which one you want to start with? We can go out of order. You can do whatever you want. Like, if you want to start with your personal one, and then I'll start with like the Bandits, doesn't matter. Start however you wish.
Just because we were just talking about it, I'm going to start with the Bandits because, just keep it rolling from the NLL. Other than the obvious three-peat, that's too easy. My resolution for them is to be the best power play unit in the league. Power play stats are really hard to come by on any website anywhere.
I got them for you if you want.
Okay. Well, I more meant even last year's. I was trying
That's
to
true. They got rid of all that
compare.
stuff.
So the last one I really found even on NLL was season 2021-2022. Not great. But back then, the Philadelphia Wings were number 1 in the league with a 55.4 power play percentage. The Bandits that season were number 2 at 52.8%. Right now, they're sitting at 35.7%. Basically, I need them to be a lot better. Their offense is incredible. They've shown that they're incredible. Their power play percentage should be much, much higher than it is. It's a team that should be, I know over 50% is impressive and a crazy number to think you're going to score on every 1 out of every 2 power plays you get, but this offense has the ability to do that, and right now I do think they're underperforming. So my resolution for the Bandits is to be better at the power play, and also I do think they have the talent on the team to be the best in the league at it.
Yeah, currently Calgary is number 1 at 62%. They're 13 for 21.
Closer
and
to that.
The worst in the league that I'm looking at right now is Saskatchewan, who's 26%.
So where
6 for 23.
Where do the Bandits actually rank so far?
Let's see. They are, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head, they are tied for 13th.
Not good.
They're tied with Colorado. And that's it. Yeah, they're tied with Colorado at 33%.
Yeah, so they should be better. They have a fantastic offense, fantastic coach. We've seen them draw up plays that are executed almost perfectly, almost result in a goal, but they need those almost to turn into goals. They should be scoring at a much higher rate on the power play.
I was actually wrong. I'm looking at Philly, who's 64%, but they're only 9 for 14. So do not give Philly an opportunity on the power play. The benefit, though, Buffalo's penalty kill, 72%. They do lead the league. But I do like your resolution for the Buffalo Bandits. My resolution is limit the shots on goal per game that the Buffalo Bandits allow. Right now, they're allowing 57.67 per game through 3 games. Yes, it's just through 3 games. But last year, they allowed 53.17. Phil, they went on to win the NLL championship, and in the playoffs, 53.2. The year before that in the regular season, 53.28. In that playoffs, 52.3. So their sweet number right there is between 52.5 and 53.5. Right now, they're sitting at 57.67. And again, that's through 3 games. You know, it's very small sample size compared to the 18 games they're going to be playing. But
one did result in the franchise record saves.
One did result in the franchise record. But I think the block shots need to increase. I think and again, we've credited them that they're giving Matt Vince the shots he wants to see. So a lot of each shot has its own value. I'll put it like that. They're giving him good value shots, but he is a 41, 42-year-old goaltender. He's making a lot of saves, but it's early in the season. There's a lot of buys. There's a lot of rest he can get back on. To me, their winning formula is to limit the chances that Matt Vince has to do on high danger chances, and that also includes limiting the shots he has to just take on the body. So to me, get that number down to where it was the last 2 years, between 52.5 and 53, and we're looking good. That's not that far of a difference. I can see that number drastically reducing, and I think that 68 shot performance that Rochester had ballooned these numbers a bit. So again, that's just a resolution. I think they can do it. I think it's a very easy fix. And I think we have an outlier game of 62 shots for Rochester that kind of ballooned that one. But that is my resolution for the Buffalo Bandits, is to keep the shots on net down. And I think you're looking at yourself a very good chance to 3-beat.
I love it, first off. Please give Vince some lower number games. Maybe even 1 or 2 in the 40s, just to get that average down a little bit. I'm going to go with the Bills next. I have 2 for the Bills, so I'm going to fly through them, and they're on each side of the ball. One is get a true wide receiver 1. Right now, for this season, their leading receiver was Shakir with a 76, 821, and 4 line. He ranked 38th in yards in the entire NFL, behind 5 rookies that entered this year, including Marvin Harrison Jr., who, by all accounts, was horrible, and he was still behind him. Most TDs on the team was 5 by Matt Collins. Okay, that's not very good. Second receiver was Coleman, who missed some games. Ridiculous that he had 27, 5, 25, and 4. And then Kincaid, Brian Thomas Jr., who I would have loved on this team, finished with 80, 11, 79, and 10. That line is way, way, way better than anything the Bills offered. Get a wide receiver on this team. I understand their offense did amazing. Their average points was amazing. At some point, get a wide receiver and they can be even better. The other one, get a linebacker. That is the other thing they seem to be missing. Dorian Williams led the team with 113. I know there were injuries, and this is not a shot at him. We like him for what he does. He should not be leading your team in tackles. Bernard was next, then Milano. Finished with 16 because the guy can't stay on the field. Nakobe Dean, who I wanted recently, had 128 in 15 games and was pretty high up there. I think top 20 in the league. Yeah, those are my 2. Wide receiver 1, new linebacker. Make it work. All those numbers are terrible. Again, the team's doing fine. They're doing great, especially on the offense. I don't know how Josh Allen's making it work. And if you want to give a case for an MVP, that's just another example. He has 0 wide receivers. I love Shakir. He's just not a wide receiver 1, and Matt Collins shouldn't be leading your team in touchdowns with 5.
Yeah, I agree with the wide receiver 1. I think they're going to target 1, and I think they're going to get one, whether it's the draft or whether it is free agency when they have a lot of money coming off the books. For me, for the Bills, this is if this happens, I want this to happen. If Joe Brady decides or is hired elsewhere, which, I mean, he could go out there, he could get an offer and go, hey, I have Josh Allen, why would I leave unless the opportunity is perfect? That's kind of what Brian Johnson did last year with Detroit. You know, the opportunities were there, and he was like, nah, I'd rather just stay with Detroit. I mean, look at the offense I'm coaching. I'll wait for my opportunity here. Get the right replacement. Don't have a Ken Dorsey type of issue again where you kind of just waste another offensive year and then you waste half a season wondering if this is going to work. I don't know if Brian Daboll is going to get fired. If he does, that would personally be my top choice, but I know that's never going to happen. Him and Sean McDermott do not see eye to eye, even though the offense was running perfectly under him. I think the offense is running perfectly under Joe Brady right now. But if I'm another franchise out there, I see what Joe Brady has done. I love what he's doing, and I would try to get a head coach because personally, to me, the way to win a Super Bowl is to have a head coach that is an offensive juggernaut, because then you're not trying to replace an offensive coordinator every time your offense looks really, really good, i.e., Buffalo Bills. But that is my resolution if Joe Brady does head out the door, to get the right replacement. I don't know who that would be. I'm not even going to try to think of who it is until I need to, if Joe Brady decides to pack his bags and head for Josh Allen-less a home.
That was going to be my real quick thing. They have no one in house, right? Like Ken Dorsey was what, the
I don't
QB
know who their
coach. Joe Brady was the
quarterback
QB
coach is.
coach. Like, I don't think they have anyone currently in house that would be immediately like, oh, this is our next guy if they leave. So I think right now, I mean, like you said, they'd have to go outside. I think they don't have anyone just kind of waiting in the wings. Brady's been incredible, and hopefully, like you said, similar situation where he loves Allen, just decides to stay. But if he gets a head coach job, obviously you're taking that, I would assume. So hopefully he sticks around, but I think they'd have to go outside the organization this time, which is something they haven't had to do for a couple of years. So that would be really interesting and unfortunate.
Yeah, I agree. I know they hired somebody as their quarterback coach that they have high expectations for, but there's really nobody waiting in the wings that's this high
So I thought,
promising offensive coordinator. I would, if I would bet, they're looking for quarterback coach, wide receiver coach from another team, or an offensive coordinator from the college ranks. That would be my best guess to replace Joe Brady.
All right, next up, I'm going to go with our BSC New Year's resolution. Mine is kind of simple and something we've been working on a little bit behind the scenes, starting to just talk about things more, discuss things, try to get on the same page. And it's pretty much just keep pushing to make this podcast better in every way we possibly can for our listeners, for ourselves, pretty much every aspect of it. Again, we started talking about some of this off podcast behind the scenes with some things, but pretty much just continue to push to do what we can to make it better, not really get complacent with what we're doing, which I don't think we are by any means. We're doing a lot and continue to increase what we're doing every single year, but I think it's just a big thing to just keep pushing to make the quality better, the content better, do what we can for our listeners who continue to come back, numbers continue to grow, and make sure we are doing our best to continue to grow with our listener base.
I agree with that, and that kind of ties into mine for the BSC as well. It's kind of decide on, amongst ourselves in this company, the keys to what our company is and the ways to continue to make it grow and put our main focus and attention in those areas. Because I think a lot of times we all, and this is no shot at any of us in this, it's just I think we are all big visionaries of what this can become. And I think a lot of times there might be instances where, me especially, where it's, I want to do this, but how do I get to that point, rather than, okay, let's solidify this, continue to grow that, and then eventually we will get to that point. I think that's, I think there's times where we spread ourselves a bit too thin, and I'm as big of a an issue with that as possible. But I think it's all in good, how do I put it?
Intentions?
There's all good intentions with it, because we all are so passionate about the BSC and where it can go and how far we've already taken it. Where I think if we are better, and this will tie into my own personal one, if we were better at setting goals for ourselves with the BSC and reach those goals, I think our big dreams of where this can become and go to will be more quickly achieved, because we are setting those milestone goals that we can keep checking off. Like I mentioned behind the scenes, what one big milestone goal I want to reach for this BSC company. I keep calling it a company as a joke, but maybe one day. But there's a big goal that I want to reach by the end of the Bandits season, and I think it's possible. I think if I'm able to set goals for myself within the BSC, I think we can achieve that as a family in the BSC here. But I agree. I think a lot of it is just how can we take this thing that we love and take it to the next level. And I think we all have the right intentions and the right ideas on how to do it. It's just being able to find the time in this unpaid. Not even a hobby anymore. It's like a part-time job, almost sometimes a full-time job on how to get us there.
So you want to be like the NLL, and instead of expanding teams, you want to lock down and solidify what we have.
That's what we're trying to do, man. And
All right,
one day expand.
Do you want to call Brett Frude and see if he's got any ideas?
Any spare cash? I
Yeah.
think they all spent all
that'd be
that
nice.
cash on the NL Plus.
Can we get a sponsorship or a scholarship from the NLL?
We'll just even take
yeah.
an unpaid intern if you want to ship one
Yeah.
our way.
Ooh, that'd be great. I think I heard on one of the interviews with Frude, they have like 26 full-time employees in the NLL. I was like, all right, well, that's not very many.
We have 3 unpaid.
Yeah, we do.
employees
We're
in the
catching
BSC.
up. We're catching up quick to them. Personal, you and I have the same. I didn't
Are you
really
saving
go.
your Sabres one?
Yeah, they're the worst. So
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I just wanted to
they're
make sure we
last
weren't going to
for a
forget.
reason. Yeah, no, they're last. I don't even want to talk about them, so they're being pushed to the bottom. Personal goals for me is very similar to what you had. Pretty like I also don't really believe in New Year's resolutions, and I was asking people on the first at work and stuff what other people were thinking. I preface it every single time, so I don't really believe in resolutions. I feel like most people that make them don't stick with them. They fade very quickly, and it's just more of a good thought at the beginning of the year than it is a true dedicated time, effort, attempt to do something. And I think very similar to what you said is like try to create goals and stick to them, which is the hardest part of making goals. That's why they usually return every single January to continue to, do what you set out to do last January when it failed by February. So a lot of it is just sticking with trying to better myself and whatever goals that I have created for this 2025 and hopefully beyond. Try to take goals that are positive and make them into habits, not just a goal that fades by the end of January and kind of quit. So yeah, sticking to the goals in life and BSC and a little bit of everything. I know you had pretty much the same thing, but it's too true to pass up. So also, I stole it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been one my entire life to have New Year's resolutions because I'm kind of the same way as you. It's just it's stupid. Why wait until New Year's first to set a resolution when you could have done it March 13th? You could have done it June 11th. I mean, there's so many days you could just do it. What's so special about January 1st besides, hey, it's a new year, new me, blah blah blah. I'm not one to really even make goals or go out and get them accomplished. I'm kind of more just like a relaxed type of guy who just takes life as it's thrown at me, and like if something goes wrong, I fix it. If we have a plan to get something done, like it usually gets pushed a week or two, and then I get it done. But I kind of what you said. I kind of want to be more determined this year and for the rest of my life. Really, I think this is. I kind of sat on the sidelines too much of just letting life come at me, where I think I need to be better at adjusting and being more motivated and be more goal oriented, not just for the BSC, not just for work, not just for life, but like as my life in general. I think I need to be more attentive in those type of things and be less, hey, life is going to do this to me, I got to adjust to that. I think if I'm better at preparing for what life's going to throw at me, I will be better prepared as a human. So I think friend-wise, family-wise, business-wise, life-wise, I think if I set goals and actually work on ways to get them accomplished in a timely manner, I will be a better human. And that will be my TED Talk for my New Year's resolution.
I like it, and again, I stole it as well, so I do really like it. It's a good thought.
All you out there, you can steal it too.
Yeah, stick to your goals, and I do think the biggest thing is trying to make these goals and ideas habits and not just goals that you refresh every January. The last one that we have to talk about for some reason still is the Buffalo Sabres. I am wearing my Do Something shirt which is good for all New Year's resolutions. Do something with your life and all these teams. I don't know. I really don't know what to do with the Sabres. I wrote down sell the team, fire everybody, and do something. I don't know. When they reach their 14th year of not making playoffs, thank goodness the Jets won and still missed playoffs. So the Sabres and Jets are really fighting to be the worst team in all of professional sports. Thank goodness they missed playoffs again. That's pretty much the only saving grace the Sabres have right now, to not be highlighted as the worst professional sport or team in professional sports right now. I don't know what this team needs to do. We've been saying the same thing for 14-ish seasons. Different ways of saying the same thing. Different every year. There's a new hope or new way of saying don't miss playoffs, and then they miss playoffs. So I really have no idea what this team needs to do. They keep trying ish things. Nothing seems to work. They're awful. Don't really know what to do with them. Be better, do something, and maybe try caring, I guess. If they want to do that, that'd be appreciated. But until I see anything from this organization ever, I'm going to assume that they will not do anything. They're one of the teams or people that will refresh their January goals every single year to make playoffs and never actually do anything productive about it.
That's I mean, if you can kind of tell based on our resolutions, it's not like, hey, go win the Super Bowl, hey, go win the Stanley Cup. We kind of took a more in-depth approach with it. Mine is pretty cut and dry, simple. It's kind of an extension of yours. Make a decision on if you're in it to win the Cup or just to have a franchise here in Buffalo. Like, the team meant so much, and I meant in a past tense on purpose, to this region and to this city. Like this team was a lot of people's first choice for fandom in regardless of sports. Like the Buffalo Sabres were a team that people fell in love with, and I'm one of them, and stupidly. But once Terry Pegula came in and said the sole reason for the Buffalo Sabres is to win a Stanley Cup, you've done nothing to prove that. So either stick to your word or just come out and say, like, hey, I just love owning the Buffalo Sabres. Like, get out of your own way or stay in your own way, and we'll just accept that. Like, I think this might come down to me personally having to accept this rather than the organization having to accept this. Is I'm not going to ever be a believer that this team is serious on winning a Stanley Cup, and I'm just happy to have a franchise in Buffalo. If I'm ever able to get into that mindset, which I don't think I'm ever going to be able to get to that mindset because it's a losing mindset, maybe I'll be able to accept the team better. But it's just it's very cut and dry. Either be a serious contender, and not even a contender, be a serious franchise, like a franchise that can be taken seriously, or, just be that bottom selling dweller of a team and a franchise. You're a joke of sports right now. So, sorry we ended on a negative, but, it's New Year's resolutions. Some of these are going to pan out. Some of them aren't. Hopefully the ones that we can control will pan out, and the rest will just work. And if you win another NLL championship or Super Bowl, and I'm not even going to mention the third one, forget about the rest. I don't really care. I'm just going to party again.
And we will continue to take credit for all championships that happen while this podcast exists. So you're welcome for all of those. And that was our resolutions. It is only the 5th, so plenty of time to get all that done. Got a whole year. I mean, not for all of them. The Bills by, September should have theirs done. The Bandits next game, it'd be cool if they did really great in the power play. So they got that to work on. Sabres, you got infinite time because you guys are never going to make playoffs again. And podcasts and personal, we'll work on it.
Yeah, so that will conclude this episode. I guess one more resolution is me not to get sick for the rest of 2025. Please don't let me get sick for the rest of 2025. I can't take it anymore. I've been sick all of December and the start of November or January. I said December. See, I'm already blanking. I've been just staring at a screen too long. I've been way too long. But that will conclude this episode. Reminder, we will be back on Thursday, not Friday, for the next episode because the Bandits do play on Friday. Phil's article will be dropping not this week because the Bandits didn't play. That was dumb. I'm kind of just reading in order here. Our picks will be out on Wednesday. My power rankings will be out on Friday. And then again, I'm going to say it again because people keep wondering, hey, where are you on Friday? We're out a day early. We're out on Thursday this week because the Bandits do play Friday. Phil will be up in the box covering the team for the BSC on Friday. We're kind of got season-long passes this year, so we're going to kind of pick and choose which games he wants, which games I want, and we'll go from there. But the BSC will get you covered up in the press box this year for the rest of the season. So that will conclude this episode. Bills versus Broncos. Let me check one more time real quick, Phil. I don't think they have.
Refresh.
Refresh. No, nothing yet. So when you're listening to this, you will already know when the Bills play the Broncos on Wild Card Weekend. The Sabres have one game. We weren't able to check anything off the bingo board. Don't think I forgot. I didn't. There was nothing to check off. Maybe they do. They got Monday versus Washington. And then we'll preview the Bandits versus the Toronto Rock, the winless Rock. The Bandits are the only undefeated team left. And the Rock are the sole remaining winless team in the NLL. If you had that on your bingo card, check that off because I don't think anybody did. But we'll preview that game on our next show. So with that, thank you all for listening to another episode of the Buffalo Sports Collective. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok at Buffalo Sports Collective, and on X and Blue Sky at Buffalo Sports Co. Visit our website at buffalosportscollective.com. Check out our website. Check out our store on our link tree on our socials or at the shop tab at the top of the website. Follow our channel wherever you listen to podcasts, including YouTube. And make sure you leave us a review on Apple and Spotify. Until next time, bye-bye.